Yeah, I know I'm late. And how are you doing, Richie? I'm late because I had got a new Batman the Animated Series mug I was going to use today, but I now cannot find it. And I'm wondering if I left it at the house to have it clean when I went to have it put through the dishwasher, because I thought I had it with me last time I came here. So I guess I don't get to show off the new mug for another couple of weeks because uh, next week I'm going to be do the Jeopardy thing. And as I said, yeah, Richie, I know I'm late. Let me adjust the lights. This is a little bright in my face. Go. And of course, the battery for the centipede light died, so I can't turn that one on right now. So I was going to do a thing for the topic, but I decided no, I didn't have anything to change. So if anyone wants to join up, we can just have a general discussion. Oh, and this is why I wore this particular bandana. I don't know if you can tell. Was because I was going to wear the Joker one again for another Batman. Oh, and Mrs. Vile is in the house. Hey, sweetheart. That's what I usually call a kiddo. Hey, babe. I was talking to her earlier because my boss wants me to drive to Yuma next week to do some work, but she's offering, if she can get approval, she's offering a bunch of money per hour, a free car rental, and a free hotel. So I'm thinking about doing it. But all right, if anyone wants to come up, I put the link in the chat. Because remember, StreamYards takes a sweet time with the chat. So I don't even know what anyone's saying until like 2 minutes after I've asked the question. So then I got to vamp for a while. Maybe I should plan these out a little bit better to have more people ready to go in the. Uh... And Mrs. Viola is telling me not to think, just say yes. Yes, dear, whatever you say, dear. Oh, maybe we can do something like that, Richie. Phoenix is a little bit further into Arizona than Yuma is, but as it will, if it's approved, I'll be using a rental car, and I don't know if my bosses are going to be willing to pay for that much extra driving. But maybe you can swing down to Yuma. Oh, and I did finish the next TOS review. It actually finished compiling about 10 minutes before the stream. I'm probably going to post it to go for tomorrow morning, because apparently I get more views if it's a morning release than it is in the evening, just like everyone told me. But the other thing is I'm going to be working to get the next Lower Decks review out, which I'm going to go pick up the Vile Child about 11:30 today, and we're going to go watch it. And I got to try to figure out a way to uh, uh, sorry, I was distracted by Richie's comment. I got to figure out a way to we got to watch the episode, write the script, record it, and then edit it. And I was able to do it last time. We'll see if I can do it again because I got it done really quickly. But it might, as there might be a special guest on, and it won't be the two guests that have been on the most in my episodes. So now to go back to the comment, Yuma is right on the border. So yes, Phoenix is a bit further in. Yeah. I don't go to Arizona all that much. Usually I'm going there to drive through it. No worries, Bird. Because when I would go to Texas, of course, got to drive through Arizona to get to Texas from Southern California. Well, technically you don't have to, but I don't want to drive north. But my sister does live in Tucson. By sister, I mean she's not my blood sister, but she's literally someone I've grown up with my entire life. My mom and her mom were in the military together, and she's like 9 months older than me and has known me since the day I was born. So I call her my sister. Her kids call me Uncle Mike. So, well, if she's still listening, maybe we can convince Mrs. Vile to join up on the stream. She doesn't have the best reception where she is, so she doesn't always get to be able to stay even in the chat. But if she clicks the link, babe, maybe you can join in. And yeah, since no coffee mug, it's just straight up 7-Eleven coffee. I don't care. I think 7-Eleven coffee is better than Starbucks, and it's hell of a lot cheaper. Not sponsored, of course, but if you got your little rewards thing, it's $1 for an extra large. This size of coffee at Starbucks would probably have a weird name and cost like $10. And I can basically do the same thing there. I just got to make it myself. Oh, no alcohol component this morning. Unfortunately, how do I phrase this? I was stupid and then lazy and I forgot. Well, babe, you don't actually have to turn on the camera. Her nieces and nephews are really loud. Oh, and of course, I'm getting a message now from the Vile Child through Facebook. So hold on a sec. See. Won't let me do the voice. So. This must be really exciting to watch. Me text my daughter watching the screen since I'm streaming from the phone. Really? There we go. Okay. But yeah, no alcohol this morning. So this is really a lame CNA stream. There's no N and there's no A. But back to Mrs. Vile's nieces and nephews, or they are extremely cute, but they are loud. I mean, I don't know what they're feeding them down there, but they get like that high octave notes. It's amazing when they're screaming and yelling at each other. I mean, it's almost amazing to listen to. And you wouldn't be listening to it long. I don't know how she's actually able to even hear anything anymore because, when they scream, my eardrums bleed over the phone. Well, she'll probably be watching the episode about the time Bird gets on, because he's doing his Star Trek animation thing for the original animated series. So by the time they're on their second episode, here, actually, because she just sent me another message. I just sent her the link to the StreamYards. Maybe she can join me. This one. Oh, she put it in the chat. She can't really talk. Well, why don't you tell us what's going on, sweetheart? Or at least I'm assuming you sent me a message for reasons. Oh, she said she's cleaning the house. She's at her grandmother. That's what she messaged me on Facebook. Oh, this is going to be a short stream, I think, if it's just going to be me. Yes, I figured that, sweetheart. She's sending me more messages. And now I just got an email from the boss, so I'll check that later. Probably about the Yuma thing. It's a busy morning for everything. But yeah, I ended up watching Lower Decks last night. I'm not going to really talk about it yet. And yeah. But I now get what some people were talking about already there's discontinuity. But it's easily forgivable given the circumstances. You gotta appreciate Caddy. Work's not important compared to me. Come on. Oh, looks like we might actually have there we go. Did it work? Yes, it did. Is that you, Ben? Babe? Hello? Maybe her phone's not able to do it. Or maybe she's trying to figure out how to turn on the microphone or upload an avatar or something. I don't know. Well, we almost have Mrs. Vial on, so. Oh, I guess it didn't work. Well, thanks for trying anyway, babe. We know that you have phone issues, or at least I know you have phone issues. And let's see, we got Richie saying, "True, Caddy, but your dad can't afford to buy you that phaser or batleth, and the batleth if he doesn't have a job." And that is absolutely true. But of course, I'm not going to be buying her either, because one, I couldn't afford the Nadion charge for the phaser, and the batleth, I would most certainly lose an appendage. Probably this one from the neck up the next time she got really angry. I mean, you guys have seen other streams when I'm streaming with her. She's violent. All right. Let's see if we're going to try again. Let's see. It's not letting me do it. There we go. All right. You there, babe? Well, now we can, at least I can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Ladies and folks, we have Mrs. Vile. I'm going to do one little thing, though.
Okay.
Trying to be clever here.
For some reason, I can't have the YouTube page and this also. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I can read any.
Oh, it sounds like you got a bad connection, babe. But yeah, even my phone has issues running YouTube and StreamYards at the same time.
And
oh, go ahead, babe.
people be able to understand what I'm saying because.
Yeah, babe. I appreciate the effort, but yeah, you're cutting out a lot, at least on my end. I don't know if it's happening there on the stream. But yes, Mrs. Vile has that nice, sexy Latina accent. And I have no idea what you meant by this, Richie. Nice knuckle there? I mean, what knuckle are you talking about? Or is it talking about when I was messing with the phone? You could see my. And let's see, she is the sun, the light, therefore soul. Very eloquent, sweetheart. And yeah, the reason her name on there was as Soul was because her name is Marisol, but because I'm a dumb white American, I refer to her as Mari. But all her friends and family basically call her Soul. Yeah, but it's still online. I think it's just the reception she has where she's at. So, plus, some areas just have good reception for your phones. I mean, where the Vile child lives with her mom, my particular phone has really crappy reception. I mean, there are places where just watching a YouTube video, it'll buffer and buffer and buffer, play for 5 seconds, buffer, play for a half a second, buffer. So yeah, it's really hard to stream when I'm with her up there because my phone just doesn't have the reception. Hers does. So let's see. My dad called himself dumb. Ha, I win. Just remember, as dumb as I am, you have half my genetics. And Richie's saying he knew someone with Mrs. Vile's name who lives in Oceanside, maybe Vista or San Carlos. Vista and Oceanside are fairly close. I don't know about San Carlos, though. But if anyone else wants to try to join up, let me know. Because otherwise, I'm just going to vamp here and maybe have a really short stream. Besides, Bird is going to be going live in about an hour and a half. She's going, well, you say you're a genius all the time. Well, I joke around with the fact because, yes, I did actually take an IQ test, and yes, I got my score was 142, and 140 is considered genius. But my big joke about that is, being 2 points into genius means you're still one of the dumbest geniuses because 140 is not really that high when you're talking about people have, like 170, 180, 200 IQs. So, San Marcos. Yeah, that's a lot closer. Because it basically goes along what freeway is that? I can't remember right now. But it's basically Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, and then just about south of that, San Marcos, or southeast of that is Escondido, which is a place where I used to live. So when you call yourself dumb, I cherish that moment. Well, you're welcome, sweetheart. You can see a massive amount of love and affection I get from my progeny in this stream. Well, if anyone wants to try to join for a little bit, let me know. Santa Fe? I have no idea what she's referring here. It's probably one of her musicals reference to that, but yeah, 78 sounds right. I don't drive up to Escondido that often anymore, but it's going to be sad that Richie might know the highway system in San Diego better than I do. Yeah, listen to your stepmom, Caddy. Mrs. Vile's coming to my defense. Love you, babe. Still think these lights are a little bright right now. Maybe I can. Is that? Whoa. Looks like I got company. Oh, just Peachy. All right, I'm gonna have to mute for a sec, guys. Sorry. All right, sorry about that, guys. uh, One of the agreements I have with the staff at the storage facility is while they allow me to stream from there, technically they're not supposed to, and they were showing off units to some new person, and that meant that I had to vacate. So sorry about that. I just don't want to get them in trouble, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. And they do graciously allow me to run my business out of the storage unit, and they're really nice people. So I try to abide by their rules whenever I can. So I'm back in the car for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and head out, at least of the storage facility. And then I'm going to start reading the comments again. So, but hold on one more second. I'll be right back. Okay. So now I'm finally driving out of the place. Yeah, usually they don't have that many people showing up on a Sunday, which is why I thought it was okay. But uh, today they just happen to have people showing up, so I couldn't hang out, at least at the storage unit. But at least in the car, I can smoke. Even though I'm pretty sure that Caddy and Mrs. Vile will argue with me about that or tell me I shouldn't. So let me go back on the comments. Let's see. Richie is kind of defending me by saying he's not dumb, he's intellectually challenged. And that's only on occasion, not all the time. Caddy's still singing a song. Richie was asking, are you represented in Vile's new avatar? Yeah, if you see the little Andorian girl, that's supposed to represent Caddy because her Star Trek Online avatar is a Andorian. And Jitsi, who did a fantastic job, by the way, actually did two versions of this avatar. Both the only changes he made from one to the other is in one she's wearing the Star Trek Enterprise jumpsuit, and the other one she's wearing a Legend of Zelda Link costume, because that's one of the things we've been working on for her is a Legend of Zelda cosplay. So, oh yeah, apparently he did notice that. I just was talking without reading all the comments. And Mrs. Vile was was trying to defend me. Yes, but that often. I mean, not that often. I wonder if she was being sarcastic there. Is Caddy Knight an Andorian or a Vendorian pretending to be an android? Andorian. Yeah. But Mrs. Vile, we all know what it would take for me to quit smoking, or at least you do. So let's see. Okay, I did get a message from my boss, and yeah, it has been approved. So it looks like I'm going to Yuma late next week. Yay! So let me respond to that real quick. God, I can't all day yesterday for the most part, except for like Mrs. Vile, of course. And then today it's been my phone has just been going off. Uh, all right, and now my phone is appeared to have frozen. Great. I still have no idea what she's singing or what she's saying or what she's typing to sing. Or saddest part is I'm such a non user of them. I have no idea how you even do musical emojis like that. So, and hey, Philip, if you wanted to come join on the stream, let me know. Got no one to bounce off of right now, or bounce the conversation off of, I should say. God, I'm the way I missay things sometimes on my streams. I'm almost as bad as Bird of Prey 5. So let me see. Do this. We'll post the link again just in case. Hi, Chris Cook. How you doing, man? No, if you saw the title of the stream, I literally didn't think of a replacement topic. I originally was going to do something, but I decided not to because I don't know, I just didn't really feel it. Basically, I was just going to originally do what because I hadn't done it since literally the first episode of the CNA streams was Ask an Atheist or something similar to that. But I don't know. I just wasn't feeling doing that one today, and I couldn't think of something to replace it. And I didn't want to talk about Lower Decks because Caddy hasn't seen it yet, and I don't want to be biased about before I write the review. Message from my boss again. Whoops. Okay. I guess I can turn the camera back on, even though the light is going to wash it out right now. Yeah, I'm too ugly. Definitely the artwork that Jitsi did makes me look a lot better than I actually do. But yeah, as I said, that he did a really good job. I mean, and everything in the image is related to the channel, of course, because we got and Richie is now joining Caddy and singing in the chat. We've got for the CNA stream, we got the cup of coffee with the Game Swap logo, and of course the cigar. And for the Game Swap, we have the cup of coffee with the Game Swap logo and the Game Swap CEO name badge thing. And then the Star Trek and Star Wars and Voltron toys type stuff is supposed to represent, the nerd stuff we sell at on the store, the books and the games as well. My favorite thing has to be though is the bandana. The fact that he actually put those Space Invaders on there. I've actually now I've looked for a Space Invaders blue bandana so I can start wearing it, but I can't find one that looks close to what he did, that wouldn't cost me like $15 to have shipped from outside of the United States. And then the only other thing is, after he done the different versions and stuff, he's like, "Is there any other changes you want to make?" And I was like, "There's only one change I really want to make. Do me a favor and put your name somewhere on there so you can advertise with it." And is it going to let me do it? Oh, there we go. How are you doing, Phil?
Hey, not bad. It's hot here in San Diego, though.
Yes, it is. It's like, what? It's already in the 80s.
Yep, and it's morning.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons when I do try to stream from the storage unit, I try to stream in the mornings, because it can get, I'm not even kidding, 140 degrees inside my storage unit sometimes.
Damn. I don't know how you survive that.
I don't go during like after noon. I just won't go there anymore. And it's only like, it's really weird because the reason I know it gets that hot is because I've got a little thermometer I picked up at the swap meet, and I put it at the apex of the roof for the storage unit. And what's kind of interesting is right next to the roof, it'll say, like, as I said, about between 130 and 140 some days during the summer. But if I put it on the floor of my storage unit, it'll drop almost immediately to like 110, 100 degrees. So just the 10 feet difference between the roof and the floor is a 40-degree difference at times.
Well, they do say heat rises, the hot air rises.
Yeah. Which is why a lot of my stuff is not that high in the storage unit when it comes to stuff that's for this on the actual store. It's all on the bookshelves.
Yeah, if you have like electronics in there, they probably have gone bad.
Well, not necessarily, unless there's already issues with them. Like maybe something that already has connection issues, like an Xbox 360 or like a Sega Game Gear. But my personal DS I keep in my storage unit to test. In fact, I got a second DS now because Caddy gave me one for, was it Father's Day or I can't remember. She gave me one not too long ago. And it's pink because, pink is one of the manliest colors. But
yeah, I have a DS, a red one. But Nintendo, they're the exception to the electronics rule. They build their stuff to last.
I'll never forget one of the stories I read in Nintendo Power back when they actually had Nintendo Power, or at least I think they still do.
Oh, the one that survived a bombing, I think, right?
Not that particular one, but the one that always amazed me was, but the one you're talking about was the Gulf War that the guy had in his pocket, and it's on display in New York right now.
Yeah, it's probably the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but that's an even more extreme example. But this was a guy who lived either in the North United States or Canada or something like that. And he said that he had his Nintendo 64 memory card on his windowsill. And somehow it got knocked over outside. And he thought, you know what, I'll go grab it in a little bit. But it ended up snowing that night. And it continued to snow all winter. So he never was able to actually go get his memory card. The next spring, when the snow melted, he finds his memory card soaking wet, covered in debris from like the plants and the ground and stuff. He washes it off, lets it dry, and it works fine. He didn't even lose his save file.
All right. Yeah. I think I've seen a video, I forgot where, but like somebody like did an actual beating to a Nintendo 64, like hardcore, like thrashing of it, and it still worked after he was beating it. So Yeah, kudos to Nintendo for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My personal GameCube I still use. It's the one I actually bought the day it came out. It's severely damaged because I won't say who, but she's the vile child's mother. Decided one day to grab it by that convenient little handle on the
Oh,
GameCube, and she
oh
chucked it
no.
at me,
Oh no.
and it smashed against the wall, and like the entire top and right side of it were just completely the plastic shattered, but it still worked.
Nice.
The only thing I had to replace on it was the little piece of plastic that holds the power switch down, because that part broke. But still, with half the top and one of the sides missing, it still works to this day.
And you still use it, or another
I
GameCube?
still use it. The only because it's missing a good chunk of the side, I do have to clean it more often because dust gets in very easily now. But yeah, it doesn't even overheat. It doesn't have any other issues. So I figured, I can't sell it, so I might as well keep it and use it.
All right. Yeah, I got my GameCube. I got a broadband adapter on it, and a Game Boy player, and a HDMI connection, and I'm good. And that some SD card loader, so I could run ISOs off of it. So I got mine kind of pimped out. I used to have a battery pack too, so I can be portable with it, but I sold that because I'm not going to be portable with that.
Yeah. Actually, I had a one of those portable gaming screens at one point for it, the one that just clamshelled on top of it.
That would have completed my GameCube.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But what sucked was, at the time I was working nights, and I figured, screw it, I'm going to bring it with me to work. And one asshole decided to literally steal just the screen off my GameCube, and it had to be somebody who was able to get into the building. So I doubt it was one of the like just a random person. It had to be like a fellow employee or something like that.
And that's weird. Just stealing the screen, maybe so I could fit it in a bag or something. I'm guessing.
I don't know. Maybe they thought I wouldn't notice that the screen was gone. They didn't take the games, the controllers, or the GameCube itself. And they obviously, because it was all in a nice little carry-all bag. So I know that they had to open the bag and then see the screen. And I thought maybe they thought if it wasn't empty, I wouldn't notice that it was gone. But it kind of pissed me off because I picked that up at Toys R Us for like $25 because no one was buying those Intech GameCube screens.
That's a good deal. I think I spent like 10 or 20 for that battery that I had, but I never used. Nice. Do you still have it? Oh, no, you don't. I'm sorry. I'm blanked out for a second.
And the funniest part about it was they had to cut the duct tape I used to take the screen to the GameCube because, as I said, the GameCube I had at the time was smashed on that side, so it couldn't clamp on properly. So I actually used duct tape to tape it to it. So they actually cut the duct tape holding the screen on.
All right. Also, I have another GameCube that I have in my room that I use as a tissue paper dispenser because it used to be a meme in the early 2000s. And well, I only did that because it didn't work. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I can't really sell it. It's a non-working GameCube. So I decided to gut it and make it into a tissue paper dispenser.
Well, what was wrong with it? Was it just not playing games, or did it not turn on?
It turned on, but I wouldn't boot any games that I had. So I'm guessing there could have been a fix for it, but I don't have any technical know-how. So
yeah, because one of the things I learned early on when it came to GameCubes was you could, if you turned up the intensity of the laser, it would basically give it another 6 months to a year's worth of life. and Nintendo conveniently put a little Phillips head screwdriver or Phillips head screw that actually controlled the intensity of the laser. So you could take it apart and just give it a quarter turn and basically turn a non-working GameCube into a working GameCube for another, as I said, about 6 months to a year, depending on how much you used it.
Also, I think there's like SD card things you could put into it and replace it with the disk drive. I know they have that for the Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn, but I don't know if you've heard of those. But yeah, people like take out the actual disk drive and like put a SD card device in there. Like
I've seen
wouldn't
about
do
this.
that. I wouldn't do that unless my drive didn't work. I think, I don't know, it's kind of ruining the system, in my opinion.
Because then it's not really the GameCube anymore. It's just basically, an SD card reader with the translation device to send it to your TV.
Yeah, well, I mean, it still plays. I'm not sure, but I mean, still has a lot of the same hardware, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm more of a game collector, so and like I like preservation aspect of gaming.
Yeah, I've always been more of that. I like having the physical copies of a lot of my games. I don't like just downloading a game because what if something goes wrong? Then I can't re-download it.
Well, if you're talking about like stuff that you purchase and download, yeah, I feel you. But if you're talking about sailing the high seas and getting 700 games, like you could replace those.
Yeah, again, because I resell, I really don't like that aspect because no one really uses it for the purpose it's supposed to be, which is data preservation. It's not meant for you to be using it all the time to be playing your games. It's supposed to, be a backup. And then, of course, people are just downloading them because, now I can have 700, or I could have every Nintendo game, every Super Nintendo game all at once. And, I didn't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for it. It's like, well, then you're not really a collector, in my opinion. You just want to have it for the sake of having it.
Well, I understand. Some people, like, they're more into just playing the game rather than the preservation or the collector's aspect of it. Like, I understand that, but I'm not one of those. I'm more into collecting. I actually don't play games that often, but I really appreciate the hobby.
Yeah, that's where I'm at for a lot of things right now because I don't have the time to be playing games as much as I want to. My biggest joke right now is the fact that I've literally owned Fallout 4 since about a month after it came out, and I've played it less than 40 hours. And I really want to be able to sit down and just play Fallout 4 for a few hours, but I'm always too busy.
Yeah, I used to give that excuse back when I was going to college, but then like when I had free time, I just wouldn't play anything. But yeah, that's one of the reasons one of the reasons I never got into RPGs or strategy games or MMOs, because it's just too time consuming.
Yeah, I was big into Star Trek Online for a while, but basically since the Discovery update, I haven't really played.
Oh no! What do they do to that? I haven't heard much about that.
That's the thing is I don't know. I updated it, but I never got around to playing it. I think the last time I did any sort of playing for it was when I went on there to copy the avatars that me and Caddy used for our reviews. Because I just went in there, I set our characters down so they'd be sitting, and then I took a screenshot. That way I could Photoshop them out, and that's what I used for our when we do our things.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was worried for a second you're gonna tell me like there's red angel suits all over the place, and
there probably is by now.
Michael Burnham is God and destroys ships with like just a look.
Yeah, see, I didn't like Michael Burnham for that reason, because she really was a Mary Sue type character, and all her flaws were just implied flaws that weren't really flaws. I realize for Mariner, people are saying that, oh, she's now the new Michael Burnham. She's a woman of color. She's the main star, and she has all these. She doesn't have any real flaws, and I'm like, she
You talking
has
about the
plenty of
animated
flaws.
series?
Yeah,
The new
Lower
anime-
Decks.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes. I gener I'm leaning towards the negative side of how I feel about it. I think if it didn't have a Star Trek name, it'd be passable as a sci-fi comedy series. But as Star Trek, it fails.
I'm actually enjoying it, but again, I think one of the reasons I enjoyed it is because I'm a real big Star Trek nerd to the point where I read the books and everything. And one of my favorite Star Trek book series was Star Trek New Frontier, written by Peter David. I mean, there's like 17 books, and he wrote every single one of them. And it's essentially Star Trek with more cursing, sex, and humor. And as I said, it was one of my favorite book series, and I enjoy Star Trek humor with more cursing, sex, and humor.
I could understand that. Humor and sex have been mostly parts of Star Trek for a long time. Profanity to a lesser extent in Star Trek, because it's supposed to be more of a professional atmosphere for the most part. And in the future, like they I'm sure like they talk about like not understanding profanity in Star Trek, and here now they're using it excessively to kind of contradictory.
And apparently Richie is disagreeing with me. He's saying Mariner is exactly like Burnham, and that Mariner's flaws are part of her ultimate perfection. And I think you're reading a little bit further into it, because I definitely see, as I said, if you saw our me and Caddy's first episode of Lower Decks review, Caddy is very, very similar to Mariner. I would not say she's very similar to Burnham.
I think I kind of agree with Richie a little bit, not completely, but yeah, it's like, oh, I hear I'm messing up, doing these bad things, but ultimately I'm the best still. Like, yeah, I did all these bad things, but they ended up being right.
Yeah, but you could argue when it comes to that kind of stuff that the same could be said about almost any Star Trek character. That, yeah, they've got flaws, but their flaws are usually ultimately correct.
Maybe like Lieutenant Barkley.
I'm thinking more like Riker, Picard, Troy. Anytime they have a flaw on screen, that flaw is not really that bad. Occasionally they'll try to explain it away, but let's take a great TNG episode, Tapestry, right? Where the one where Picard gets stabbed through the heart for his hubris as being a young cadet or young officer.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But we all know that impotence led him to be the person he is as a captain today. So it was a flaw, but it was still made him as a better character overall, or a better person overall. And I think that's what Star Trek actually should be about, is having those flaws not be a hindrance, but be something that they overcome to make them better people. And I definitely see that in the Mariner character.
I don't see that she really learned, because she keeps acting the same way, at least for the first 2 episodes. Like, yeah, I'm careless. Oh, it still worked out. Okay. And then the next episode, I'm careless. Oh, everything worked out. And then she'll continue, and she's like a sitcom character, like Kramer on Seinfeld. Like, she never grows. But hey, we're only 2 episodes in, so maybe she will. But I see her as a just a two-dimensional character that never learns so far.
Well, again, we're 2 episodes in. I mean, you could argue if you were literally to watch the first 2 episodes of Next Generation, you could say that about any of those characters. And I could honestly see if they write it, if they do a do a good job writing that character, that would be a good arc to have over the course of several seasons. Is someone who grows over time to actually become a responsible person. Right now, there's something that has obviously happened that disenfranchised her to the command structure and the way Starfleet does things. And the way, at least from the first 2 episodes, the way she tends to be right is mostly by luck. Very similar to Picard or to Kirk. He's usually right, but it doesn't necessarily make sense as to why he's right. I mean, let's take the Corbinite maneuver. I mean, yeah, he was right about using poker and bluffing his way into the situation, but let's face it, that's not what a normal person would do.
Yeah, they did highlight his decision-making skills in the episode where he was telepathically linked to Crusher, the doctor, when I was stranded on that planet and trying to get away. I forgot the name of the episode right now. But
I was talking about Kirk, but I said Picard. That was my bad.
Okay, well, I was giving a TNG example.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
So, yeah, with him, like basically they use that as a way of showing how Picard thinks and his decision-making skills. And even if he doesn't know what to do, he still takes action to show that he's a leader. And because she was reading his mind.
All right, I'm going to... Tiki of Doom says, I just wish they would make a normal Star Trek show. Make it as diverse, as inclusive as you want. I just want good writing again. Going back to, the reviews that me and the Vile Child have been doing, most of the episodes of the TOS, at least in the first season, are not very good. They're not written very well. They make a lot of mistakes. And you could, again, argue that a majority of Star Trek episodes are really not that good. But it's the universe that we appreciate. And I don't think that the types of shows that Trek would work today based on the streaming that we have today. People don't tend to watch an episode every day on syndication. It's more of they'll sit down and they'll binge watch 3 or 4 episodes and then, go on to the next few episodes in a week or next day or something like that. And Richie does not agree with me. The first season of TOS is very well written. Sorry, Richie. No, most of the episodes are not well written.
I would say half. But I'm not a huge fan of TOS. I'm a TNG fan.
I would say that a lot of the concepts that TOS tried to talk about were ahead of their time, but they weren't executed very well. I mean, let's face it. The best episode of the first season is Balance of Terror. But after that, you got what? Arena, and then everything else is largely forgettable. At least of the episodes that we've done so far.
Yeah, they had some weird episodes, like the one with Abraham Lincoln and
yeah, Lincoln in space. That's great writing, right?
Well, it's still better than TNG with Mark Twain. And
I actually like Mark Twain in those episodes.
Oh, that was cringy to me. Not for me. It's too animated and goofy, like, to me.
Tiki, we actually haven't done City on Edge of Forever yet. We're still in the middle of, or we're in the latter half of the first season. The episode we just did was Tomorrow is Yesterday, and yeah, Tomorrow is Yesterday is not really a good episode. We don't really go into how bad it is, but yeah, the whole ending of that episode does not make a lick of sense, both in scientific terms and the way time travel and transporters work in the rest of the series. So, and when you talk about when Tiki Doom also says, I'd argue that modern shows are failing hard, and the numbers prove it. If you were to go just by the numbers of TOS, the amount of people watching it as it came out, there weren't many people watching it as it came out. It mostly did its best on syndication, and that was part of the whole thing that they were trying to do was, pump out as many episodes as they could to get those syndication numbers. And that's what basically made Trek what it is now, is having it on syndication. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that model does not really work today.
Right.
Richie, some of the stuff we do is when I'm do that stuff, when he's saying that you take offense to things written in the 60s where no offense was intended. That part of that is when we're talking about it, it's more of the different attitudes that were there in the 60s. We're just comparing and contrasting the two. It's not necessarily meant to be, oh yeah, this was bad. This wouldn't necessarily fly today, but I'm sure there are things that are being put out today that won't fly in 50 years if television still exists, because as cultures change, and the shows have to change to match that.
Yeah, I don't see much of a problem when it comes to 60s. I mean, I'm sorry. Like for instance, like their skirts, they actually view that as a woman empowerment by wearing the skirts as like a rebellious choice, and other things on the original Star Trek series, because
well, if you know, have you seen The Cage?
It's been a while, but yes, the one with the guys with the big heads and brains. Yeah.
Yeah. In that episode, if you notice, all the female characters wear pants, and it was originally done that way on purpose, basically to show that the male and female equality. One of the reasons they did the skirts was literally because Grace Whitney, the lady that played Yeoman Rand, wanted to be able to show off her legs because she was a dancer. She she thought that this would be a stepping stone to something else, and she wanted to be able to do that. So they rewrote and redid the costumes to do the mini skirts. And I don't have a problem with that, because even today people can wear what they want when they're at work, whether if they're not in strict uniforms, your civilian clothes, you can wear whatever you want, even in the military. So I don't see that as something that bad. Although I do think the fact that they did they tried to do the skirts in TNG the first couple of seasons.
Oh, even with the males?
Yeah. I actually thought that was really funny, because I could totally see someone like Scotty wearing one of those things, just with a kilt modification. I would honestly, I'd like to see that in Lower Decks, is have a male character walking around with a Scottish kilt. I mean, I during my day job, I have to wear pants, obviously, because but during the weekends I tend to wear shorts, because I like to have that that little bit of breeze and freedom down there. So I could actually picture myself wearing one of those skants. Just for shits and giggles.
I mean, if everybody wore one, maybe I would too. But since that's not happening, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think it's part of the problem with a lot of people is anything that's new or different they don't like, and I think that's one of the issues with lower decks in general is a lot of people have that they changed it, now it sucks mentality.
I mean, I don't hate it like a lot of others do, like Nerdrotic and those people. Like, I don't hate it. I just have problems with it, and I do have issues with that character that we were talking about. But I don't. It's enjoyable, has funny jokes in it, but I'm still on the fence about it.
And Richie wants to point out that Uhura had pretty nice legs too. Absolutely. But I don't know. Were you on? How old are you, Phil? If you mind me asking.
I'll say mid to late 30s.
All right, so about the same age as me. Did you? Were you part of the online culture in the late '80s, early '90s?
There was no online culture in the 80s, but well, there's BBS. Yeah, but no,
I was
it
5
wasn't.
years old surfing the web in the '80s.
I did have a friend, a neighbor, who had a computer with a BBS in the early 90s, like 91, 92, but I wasn't using it.
I was checking out Star because I discovered Star Trek when I was about 3 years old. When Next Generation like first started doing syndication. In fact, Next Generation was my introduction into Trek. I didn't watch TOS until later on. But
actually, I was introduced to both at the same time. Like, they're both back to back on syndication here on Fox 6.
They weren't. At least I don't remember it because I remember watching it on syndication on one of the cable stations.
Are you originally from San Diego?
Yep.
It was on Fox 6.
I wasn't watching it on Fox. I was watching on somewhere other station. I can't remember. But
I didn't even know.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I didn't watch it on Fox. But I remember going to the early BBSs back in the day, and I was, this is, I think, season 3 of Next Generation, and there were still people talking about how shitty Next Generation was because it didn't have Kirk, it didn't have Spock, it didn't have Scotty, it didn't have the original Enterprise. People were complaining about how awful it was just because it didn't have those characters. And I remember reading back then people saying, this isn't real Trek. And that always kind of stuck with me. That's pretty much the reason I went back and started. At the time, I didn't know that TOS was on syndication still. So I actually went to the video store and I was getting whatever episodes they had on for Blockbuster. And I was watching those episodes. And to me, TOS always was a little bit outdated, and I didn't really start to appreciate it until I was, more of an adult. But I didn't understand how people were saying this isn't Trek, at least how TNG isn't Trek. To me, it seemed like a decent continuation. And then, of course, Deep Space Nine comes out. And again, people were saying, oh, this isn't real Trek. It takes place on a station, not on a ship. And then again, Voyager comes out. Oh, this isn't real Trek. It's just it's just Battlestar Galactica with one ship in Star Trek universe. It's not real Trek. Enterprise, it's not real Trek. It's a crappy prequel series. So every time a new Trek has come out, people have said it's not real Trek. And I think it's just people need to, and later on, people tend to start appreciating it more and more. I mean, just look at Enterprise. That was one of the biggest ones people hated when I was growing up. And now it's getting a lot more love than it did even close back when it first came out.
Yeah, for me personally, I tried to watch it and I couldn't get into it. But I only tried for like the first like 3 or 4 episodes and then trailed off for me. But
Um,
yes, as you were talking about, like I could see why people would say those things. Like watching enough documentaries and YouTube videos of people's opinions on those series when they came out. For me, yeah, like Deep Space Nine felt like it was like kind of stale at a space station and didn't have as much action as TNG, but like I grew to enjoy it, and even more so as an adult.
Richie confirms that Scotty did wear a kilt of sorts in the episode Savage Curtain when they welcome aboard Space Abraham Lincoln.
I think I remember. Yeah, I remember that because I watched that episode not too long ago, and that episode has some issues, especially with Abraham Lincoln when he was talking to Uhura. I don't want to repeat what he said. It was a bit racial.
It's probably been at least 10 to 15 years since I've seen that episode, so.
But
yeah, I know
okay.
what you mean. There's a lot of stuff they say in 1960s Trek that is kind of cringy. In the Squire of Gothos, we kind of pointed out the fact that Trilene says to Uhura, says to Kirk about Uhura, "Oh, surely she's some prize you won on a conquest."
Oh wow.
Yeah. Now, in context, it somewhat makes sense because he's looking at Earth from the past, and he's romanticizing the European aspects of it. But it's still kind of cringy when you're watching it today. At least that particular line. Then again, Trilene was basically an asshole the entire episode, so.
Like, yeah, TNG even had some questionable episodes, like the one where it's that the planet of the African culture. I forgot the name of the episode. Like even as a kid, I didn't understand why it was wrong, but it felt off to me. Like this is weird to me. But yeah, learning about it now, like how even the cast didn't like that doing that episode, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek has always tried to be progressive, but they've failed on occasion, and that's okay. I think the aspect of trying is better than not trying. But yeah, I know the episode you're talking about. I can't remember the name, even though I literally was just reading something about it. But another episode is the supposed transgender episode that TNG did, where Riker falls in love with the sexless chick.
Yes. Well, I've heard positive things about that episode actually. That some transgendered people have viewed that episode and it really helped them out. I've seen some videos like that.
Yeah, I've seen some say that, but I've also seen the exact opposite because, it's a culture that is supposed to celebrate non-gender, and she chooses a gender, but in the end, she's forced to become, sexless again, and the Federation doesn't consider that a bad thing necessarily, and that's part of the problem with it. I think, at least from what I've seen from the few transgendered friends I have, their greatest moment when it came to representation, as far as they post online, is when Core met Jadzia, and the whole line is something along the lines of Jadzia. Core gives Jadzia a hug and says, "Curzon, my old friend," and she just says, "It's Jadzia now," and he just goes, "Jadzia, my old friend." And under that context, it really works. I mean, he doesn't care that she's now, a female. It's still the same person, at least memories wise, that he knew as Curzon.
Huh, I didn't look at it like that. All right. Yeah. And that's especially interesting how the Klingon culture is viewed as sometimes even more sexist than human culture because they're more of a warrior race. But I'm glad that they gave that character a good personality.
Yeah, it definitely makes Core a more well-rounded character from TOS all the way to Deep Space Nine. I mean, I think he was only in 1 or 2 episodes for TOS and TAS, and only 2 episodes for Deep Space Nine. But he's still a really good character overall, and he's got an interesting arc if you actually look into it.
Yeah, wasn't he trapped um, at, on in the Dominion planet with Worf, where he had to help
No,
fight?
that was Mortok.
Oh yeah. My bad. Sorry.
The only episodes that Core was in Deep Space Nine was the albino episode where they, the 3 Klingons from the original series get together with Curzon and Worf, and they go back and hunt the albino. And then later on was the episode where Core is basically losing his memory, and he goes out in a blaze of glory.
Okay.
But yeah, those episodes were really cool because they brought back the original actors from TOS to play their original characters. It was a good homage, and I think that's one of the reasons that Deep Space Nine was good, was because they did those homages. And again, to tie it back to Lower Decks, Lower Decks is doing a lot of those homages as well, throwing in little things, and I appreciate those little things.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate the fact that Mrs. Vile likes little things, but bunch.
Wow. No comment on that. But yeah, I did notice they sprinkled in a good amount of references to previous Trek on Lower Decks. So, like I said, I'm not a complete hater of that show yet. Just waiting to see where it goes. But I cannot say the same thing with Discovery. I loathed that, especially with the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't like about Discovery was, granted, I thought that a lot of aspects of the original series is out of date. It's silly. The whole design aspects is really 60s. But Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, anytime they referenced those shows, they still brought back those types of sets. And I love that aspect. It kept that set of continuity intact. Whereas Discovery, the whole aesthetic was different, and I did not like that. The ship should have looked more like TOS. Instead, they looked more advanced than Nemesis and Enterprise E.
Well, they could say a lot of the same things with Enterprise, and they still try to make it feel older with the levers and stuff, but it still they had more advanced tech than on TOS still.
Well, one thing I said, I didn't really appreciate the first watch through when it came to Enterprise, but notice the hull plating for the NX-01. You know how it's all nice and shiny and stuff, and the way the armor has those curves and stuff. You remember?
Yeah, but like I said, I only watched like 3 or 4 episodes. But yeah, I think so.
Okay. If you actually pay attention, the style of the armor plating and the way the curves and stuff for the NX-01 is very reminiscent of World War II bombers. And to me, that fit the aesthetic for TOS because TOS was very 60s, bright colors, sharp angles, that kind of stuff. And Enterprise had that World War II feel, the cramped sets, the muted colors, the bare gunmetal, as I said, the curves as well. So it fits with that lineage a lot better than Discovery does. Discovery is just way too freaking modern, and I didn't like it. That brought me out of the series a lot more than, the fact that Burnham was a Mary Sue. And howdy, Mr. Miles.
Mr. Miles. I'm guessing that's a reference to Miles O'Brien. Is it? I don't know. Or that's your actual name?
You don't know Mr. Miles?
No, I've seen him in chats several times. I never asked about his name, if that's his real name or maybe a reference to.
Well, his name was originally Mr. Miles, Chief Engineer. He shortened it to just Mr. Miles.
That's why I thought about it. Yeah.
But yeah, he does a lot of the edits for Anti-Trekkers videos, and he actually edited one of my videos, the arena video.
Nice.
And he did a really freaking awesome job to the point where anything I do after is going to look shitty in comparison.
Oh, and I guess Miles is his real name. Okay.
But yeah, see, Richie's saying that. Sorry, I'm not looking at the YouTube chat because it's hard for my phone to run both at the same time.
So how do you go through the messages? There's some feature on StreamYards?
StreamYards has the chat. Yeah, I can bring the chat up while having the StreamYards up.
Ah, nice.
The only problem is it's on up to a 2-minute delay, which really sucks. But yeah, that was my biggest gripe with Discovery, was it did not do the aesthetic really well until the Enterprise itself shows up.
So I'm guessing you also do not like the reboot films, the J. Abrams movies.
I have a lot more forgiveness for those because they explicitly take place in a different timeline or a different universe. It's not the same. It's not the prime timeline as it's known. Just like I'm a Transformers fan. Transformers has a whole bunch of different universes. But if I see something, from like Transformers Energon in a reboot for Transformers Generation 1, I would complain because it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the series.
Have you seen the new Netflix Transformers series? It's pretty good. It's a reboot, though.
I haven't actually watched it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it so far. So,
yeah, I'd recommend it. And yeah, I'm mainly a fan of the original TV show and movie. Not a big fan of the Michael Bay movies. Bumblebee was good, though.
And Richie asked, does Mr. Miles still edit videos for Anti-Trekker? You'll have to ask him, so hopefully he says something. And howdy, Cinnabon. I don't know if you said something else before, but nice to see you, man. But yeah, like when they did the promo for Discovery, I actually really was optimistic about it because I liked the fact that they used the Phase 2 design for the ship. But then, of course, when the ship actually is in the main series, the nacelles are so freaking long, it's like they're overcompensating. And I did not like that aspect. The spinning saucer is gimmicky, but it played a purpose, so I didn't care as much. But the rest of the aesthetic of the bridge just did not fit with how I would picture something that was supposed to take place 10 years before TOS. And that's what I hated most about the series. As I said, it just did not seem to fit.
Yeah, they're just taking their own artistic liberties at it. That's all it is.
I guess that's the answer. That kind of sucked. I mean, other than, I don't even know what videos he's been doing lately. I mean, I did watch his Lower Decks review after I finished mine, so I wouldn't be biased. And that's what I did last. What I'm going to do this time is I'm avoiding everybody's reviews until after me and the Vile Child do our reviews. And,
yeah, that's why I didn't go into details about the latest Lower Decks episode.
Well, let's see. Mr. Mount was saying Discovery's aesthetic felt closer to Mass Effect, especially the beginning. I could agree with that. It, as I said, it didn't. To me, when someone says it doesn't feel like Trek, that's what Discovery was. It didn't have that feel of Trek. But I don't feel the same thing when it comes to Lower Decks, as that feels very Trekky to me.
Yeah, I think the look of Lower Decks definitely is more TNG looking, but just have issues with the professionalism and the characters. But it is animated also. I don't know.
And Tiki saying he loved the first two Mass Effect games. I like the entire trilogy. I never played Andromeda because the early reviews for that, at least when I read the gameplay reviews, and it was just so glitchy, I'd never bothered playing it. But I think the gameplay for Mass Effect 2 and 3 was a lot better than 1, but the storyline was still better in 1 and 2. So take that for what it's worth, in my opinion. Did you play Mass Effect?
I have not, but I'm not against it. I just haven't had the opportunity to play those games.
Let's see.
Also,
Tiki's-
I'm mainly a retro gamer, but if I run across it, I'll try it out.
Oh, so that's a term that I always find funny, is retro gamer, because when it comes to the reselling market, the terms retro, vintage, and all that kind of stuff actually have legal terms attached to them. That are legally defined in the United States.
And I see where you're going with this. Yeah. Yes.
So-
I in reality, like, when it comes to other things, it's not retro at all, because it's still like something that's even 40 years old is not vintage or retro when it comes to other things. But
yeah, like vintage, I think has to be a minimum of 40 to 50 years old. Retro has to be a minimum of 20 to 30 years old, stuff like that. And I'm pulling those numbers out of my ass. I don't remember it offhand.
But usually when it comes to like other things, like when you think vintage, you think like something from the Victorian era, or the Model T maybe, or something that's like old. But with I thought that's where you're going to go with what you're saying.
Well, like what era of gaming, when you say retro gaming, are you referring to exactly? Because I do know people that refer to the Xbox 360 now as retro.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still making 360 games up to like 2017, so that is not retro.
I don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly sure that there was a 2018. They were still making 2018 soccer games.
Okay, even further proving my point.
Yeah.
Like that, if they're still making games like 2 years ago for that system, that's not retro. Like I even with like Nintendo, they're doing homebrews games like recently, but that doesn't really count for homebrew. But
Well,
yeah.
Well, if you're talking about a system that is no longer being updated or taken care of by the original company, Nintendo was still doing repair work on the original Nintendo into the 2000s. So they were still performing support for that system well after they were not making games. I think the last game came out for the original Nintendo like 10 years after it originally came out.
Yeah. So it's some people have different definitions of it, but I think generally when you go on like forums or websites about retro gaming, and where I kind of agree with as well is the dividing mark is the PlayStation 2. But
See, in my humble opinion, I wouldn't consider the PS2 retro.
exactly, I'm saying
I would say
PlayStation 2 onwards is not retro.
I would say that at this point, anything Super Nintendo or older would be retro. Anything pre-Atari would be vintage, but that's again my opinion. But yeah, anything that uses an optical based system, I wouldn't say would not qualify as vintage or retro yet.
Well, now you're getting into weird territory with technical aspects of systems because some optical game systems came out like the same year as the Super Nintendo, like the CDI.
And I understand that. I'm still saying that those wouldn't necessarily count. I would not consider the Atari Jaguar as retro yet, but
Wow.
I would actually consider like the Pioneer Laser Active retro, only because the Laserdisc type setup has been around since the 70s. So,
right.
But
the compact disc came out in 82.
Sorry?
The compact disc came out in 82.
Is it really that old?
Yeah.
Damn. And then Mr. Miles is like, what about classic? I don't know if classic is a legally defined term. As I said, the three that I know that are legally defined are retro, vintage, and antique. And they all have the time frames they actually work for. And as for legacy, I don't know if you could do legacy. I wouldn't. I highly doubt that one is legally defined.
Oh yeah, that's another term I also use classic instead of retro. Classic gaming. I used to actually attend those classic gaming expos in Vegas. I attended like 3 of those.
Because when it comes to classic gaming, I think classic gaming would be anything that would qualify as something that is just gaming that has been around for a long period of time. Like any side scroller today, even if it's put on a modern system, I would still say that qualifies as classic gaming because the side scroller has been around for since the 1980s. Any game that was made in a similar format, but anything with the truly 3D sandbox type world, I wouldn't say that's classic yet. Because once that becomes classic, then all video games could be argued as classic. But again, we're just talking about non-legally defined terms. See, Richie's saying Lower Decks visuals are very TNG-like, but the character behaviors are not. Very un-Starfleet of them. See, I disagree. The best characters, in my opinion, are those ones that aren't the, TNG cookie cutter, everyone's perfect. The best characters, in my opinion, in TNG were Reginald Barclay and Ro Lauren. People that weren't in every episode, but they were very flawed in the way they behaved. And they were very un-Starfleet-like, but they were still in Starfleet, and I appreciated that.
And I didn't really like Ro Lauren. She was kind of a B word to me, but...
And I you know what? I agree with you, and I think that's one of the reasons she was a great character, is because in this perfect utopia where everyone's supposed to love, the Federation, you still have someone who's an asshole.
I still thought she was hot.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. But let's take.
I didn't hate her though. Like she was not 2-dimensional. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Exactly. But I was going to talk about Ronnie Cox's character, Captain Jellicoe.
Yeah, I liked him in Total Recall.
I've liked him in almost everything he's done, including Stargate. But in the episode, he's portrayed as an asshole, a bad guy almost. And I really liked him as a captain. I thought he was very professional. And I wish that more characters were more like him. Yeah, he was abrasive, but I think he did a very good job. But he didn't fit that TNG perfect character cookie cutter mold.
Yeah, he gave Star Trek more of a military feel to it. Like he made Troy wear a uniform, and he, along with Data, had everybody perform more efficiently, even if they were not enjoying how the system was set up by him. But it felt more militaristic with him on board. But he was not an unfair captain.
And Rosetta Allen's in the house, as well as Pickles and Elihu. So how you guys doing? Of course, it's going to take a while for the chat to pick up again for me. And Richie's comment right here, realistically, any character that behaves like Mariner would be in the brig, not serving aboard a starship. And you know what? I think you're technically right. Yeah, Rosetta, if you want to join, let me see if I can put the link in there again. I'm going to end the stream in about 10 minutes or 10, 15 minutes, though, because I don't want to be an ass to bird. I know he's going to go live. But what was I saying? I do think Mariner would be in the brig, or at least in New Zealand in the penal colony, like Paris was. But I honestly think that she's not because of favoritism. She's the daughter of an admiral and a captain. Sorry for spoiling if you guys didn't know. But it was in the first episode. So I do think, just like they do in Trek, you protect your friends and family. And there are plenty of instances in Trek where a character does something that should have got them thrown into the brig, or at least removed from Starfleet, where their friends gathered around them and saved them. I'm trying to add her to the stream, but she wouldn't let me. There you go. How you doing, Rosetta?
Yeah, fussing. The husband is traveling, so I will worry. That's just kind of how it is. Other than that, how you guys doing?
Oh, fine.
I'm hanging in there.
A good topic, so we're just bouncing around subject to subject.
That's kind of what I do best.
Richie says Starfleet does not engage in nepotism until now. And I'm like, no, they've always done that.
No, they've helped each other out if they're family members.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about nepotism when it comes to, familial relationships. I'm talking about friends as well. And yeah. Oh, TNG characters were never portrayed as perfect. Geordi, for example, was very shy around women. Oh yeah, that's a great version, or a great character flaw for Geordi, right?
How about the best character flaw for any of those characters was just Barclay, period. He's every character flaw.
Yeah. And I think that's what made Barclay such a great character.
But no, look, I'm being honest. I prefer original Trek stuff. I don't like the new stuff. I don't think anybody doesn't know that about me by now. But I do think there were times they overglossed some things. I do think there are flaws still in the original stuff, but I miss the intellectualism that we don't really have now, too. And that's where I think we really need to find a balance here. Is, you can add in all this new stuff, add in things we've learned more about psychology and stuff, but we still need those intellectual elements. We still need the philosophical elements that we've kind of lost.
Yeah, and that is something I haven't seen yet in the first two episodes. And let's face it, Discovery did not really have any of those episodes.
Discovery did not have that.
And Pike's whole thing was basically the whole, he now And I thought that was really stupid when they're like, "Oh, he now knows what's going to end up happening to him," because I don't think he should have ever learned that. It should have been something that, we know as the audience, but he doesn't know. But the fact that once he did learn it, the fact that he was doing the, oh, I'm not going to die in doing this because I know I'm going to survive until X time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I'll be honest. Part of why I've been completely turned off on the new show is just, and I've said it on every stream I've been on, I can't stand this modern animation style. It's so flat. It's so hollow. And as an artist, I look at it and it just, to me, feels unfinished and weird.
I kind of agree with you, but I talked to a friend of mine who also is an artist who does animation. And what she was saying was the simplified animation style actually makes it a lot easier to do dynamic animation today.
Oh, I admit that it's easier to animate that way. I just think they're taking ease over actual skill and function.
Well, what she was saying was when a director tells her to do certain things for a shot, having that animation style makes it so that it's easier to have the director relay what they want to the animators, so they don't have to go back and redo it or just be stuck with some crappy scene that they already did.
Again, as I said, I think it's because we've lost good communication, for one. We've lost the ability to really be dedicated. I'm not saying it's her as an animator's fault. Most of these people doing this style in these shows, they're being told to do it when they're hired. I think it's from the top down on that. I don't like it. And there are simple styles that look less drug induced, because the eye style they use on them, they all look like they're bug-eyed, strung out on drugs. And that's one of the ones that gets me the most. So there's ways to be simple like the old days and still have a little more balance in the art style, But I think it's from the top down, this decision. I'm not blaming other artists. Does that make sense?
I kind of agree with you, but again, I'm talking like the animation style of, say, like Transformers Generation 1 back in the 80s. A lot of the shots were really well done, intricate drawing styles, right? But then you'll have a frame shift and they oversimplify things, and the juxtaposition is really jarring and it sucks.
Yeah,
but when you have the simplified style all the way through, it's less jarring.
Yeah, and I understand that. And that's why I said there's a place you can find a middle ground where you can have a more simplified style for some ranges. You can find a more simple balance and stuff, but still have some depth and not make the eyes that buggy and stuff like that. Balance it.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong, but
and I know that's the popular thing right now. I can't get over it.
I don't like that style either of animation.
Yeah. And it's not just this one. It's everything. Even shows that are really simple, that shouldn't be hard to animate, even simple ways. Even if you use some of the old cliche stereotypes of extended hallways or other stuff, there's ways you could make it simple, but not make it so weird, for lack of a better word.
Also, to comment on one of those comments about the flaws in the characters, TNG started off as like unflawed characters, but like with Wesley Crusher, he developed into a flawed person later in the series when he went to Starfleet and had to lie to Captain Picard.
Yeah, but that was one episode of character development for him. I mean, most of the episodes, he was a very Mary Sue type character. And I think he was the original Trek Mary Sue.
Gary Sue.
They changed it, like I mentioned.
I attach no gender to Mary Sue. I think it's just a generic type.
For one reason. The term was actually started by women to criticize characters that don't correctly portray our strengths with our flaws.
Well, see, I remember Mary Sue being started being used for people who wrote fan fiction, and they would do their character their author avatar type character, who was suddenly the smarter than Spock, sexier than Kirk.
But I'm saying the origin of the term came in the early 70s, and it was part of the liberation movement where they were criticizing characters that were just being thrown out, shoehorned into existing arcs and stuff just to have a female. And they were being thrown out really strong and stuff, but with almost no real story or depth. And that's where the phrase started. It was these women that wanted strong women in media going, can we have better representation that isn't just a version of the men? And this also shows you how long this woke issue's been happening. It's just been being worked in different ways. But that's why I stick to the gender on it, is because it was about the women's lib movement not liking the excessively perfect female heroes.
See, different interpretation of the same word. As I said, to me, I don't attach gender to it because in my experience, gender wasn't really an issue for me when I heard the term growing up. So that's why I don't care about using Mary Sue as a gendered term. But by all means, if you use it as Gary Stu or whatever, I don't care.
But that's just why I say it, because I'm very into where words and phrases come from. I'm very into the history of language. That's more my passion. I'm less a science nerd and more a language nerd. So
I'm definitely more of a science nerd, but I tend to, when I write a comment, I tend to use my language very specific. And sometimes that annoys people because they think I'm saying one thing when I'm actually saying another.
With writing, I try to do that, but sometimes I want to get it out. So when I talk, it's not as precise.
Yeah, same thing. When I'm saying the words out loud, I don't do that brain mouth thing. Doesn't work for me all the time. But one of the things Mr. Miles said was, I never felt they grew that much. They didn't grow as over the course of 7 years. And yeah, I think that's one of the issues people had with Picard was over the course of 7 years for the original series, or for Next Generation, sorry, he did not really change all that much. Yeah, he had the episodes, Best of Both Worlds and Family. But after those episodes, he was back to basically being the same Picard from season 1. Whereas in Star Trek Picard, he's a very different character in certain ways. And I don't think people like that. Voyager, I kind of agree with Mr. Miles. Those characters had a lot more flaws, and I appreciated those flaws because you had Harry Kim with his little naivete. You had Tom Paris, slight as a slight Ro Lauren, not being all
Ro Lauren, yeah,
command structure. But let's face it, characters like Chakotay were the same character for 7 years. Janeway she changed from episode to episode because she wasn't written very well.
I will argue that Chakotay was the same character for 7 years because they had a freaking known fraud, fake native write the character, and they changed which native culture he was so many freaking times falsely. It wasn't even funny. Yeah,
that was one of the big missteps with Chakotay. I say Chakotay, but I meant to say Chakotay.
Yeah. And that one drove a lot of them nuts. It drove the actor nuts because he's native and he could tell the character's information was wrong, but he also has to do the part the way he was contractually written to do. So it was a big mess with that. And that's one of the reasons why, even though I like a lot of Voyager, there's issues I have with it.
Yeah, a lot of those characters, if those events to happen in real life to them, they would be broken and very flawed characters, having to go through those 7 years in outer space without Starfleet. I think that they'd be pretty bad. Well, they did show the characters being bad in that that one episode where they had the serial killer going around and he had to like kill people. Was that? Yeah, that was Voyager, I think.
Lon Suitor.
Or
That was the character's name.
yeah.
But Richie says, I dislike writing that deliberately shows a character is deficient in the beginning so they can grow later on. Yes and no.
But that's called a character arc, and that's actually required in any character's development. The thing is, there's a difference between you show a person and they're in this state and they're flawed, they're trying to become a better person, and you show how they grow over the time. That's what we all go through in life. We're all flawed in different ways. We all try to become better as we get older. Versus over exaggeration, where they just harp on everything is flawed with this person, and then suddenly they're perfect. And I think there is a balance line to it.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream on this note. One of the best Kirk moments comes in Star Trek 2 when he's going through, his, old life crisis, basically. And if you think about it, it's kind of started in the motion picture, but the Kirk that we have from, the first episode of TOS is the same Kirk we had to the last episode of the animated series. He didn't really grow as a character, but his best growing, the most amount of character development he had was in those movies eras. And I think that's what made Kirk a better character overall. So, but that's just my personal opinion. And because Bird's going to start his stream in about 2 minutes, I want to go ahead and end the stream. Phil, thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it because being by myself kind of sucks.
Thanks for having me on.
Anything you want to promote real quick?
I just released a new video yesterday on background actor stories. So check that out on my channel. And it's only a 5-minute video. That's about it. Philip Gaming.
Rosetta, anything you're doing soon?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, part of the thing with me that I'm doing is I will be doing some interviews with some of my comic friends and artists today, and I'll be hopefully with my friend if he can get his stream together tonight for Ian Slater. He wants to do a stream discussing actually Janeway, but it depends on what he can work out with his trucking crew right now. So that's
right.
In the air.
Well, everybody, the 9 people that are still watching, go to Bird Stream. Tell them I sent you. I got to go get ready to pick up Caddy in about half an hour, and we're going to start work on our Lower Decks review for episode 2. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week. Later, folks.